Thanks for clicking on this video. I really appreciate you being here. If you enjoy the story, consider subscribing and feel free to like the video or drop a comment below. It really helps the algorithm recommend these videos to you and to others who might enjoy them too. Either way, thanks for giving it a chance, and I hope it pulls you in. I thought it was just a strange night. Then the window glowed, not with moonlight, but with a terrifying, expanding orb. And the sound. It started as a whisper, then a thrum, now a deep, unsettling vibration that's everywhere, inside everything. It's changing us, twisting our minds. This isn't just a story. It's a warning from a world gripped by an impossible cosmic dread. Can you hear it too? The first time I noticed something was wrong, I was driving home from my shift at the fast food place on Route 9. It was around 3 in the morning, and the roads through Cedar Falls were empty, like they always are at that hour. I'd worked the closing shift, scrubbing grease off grills and mopping floors until my back ached. My eyes were heavy, and I was thinking about crawling into bed next to Emma when I saw it through my windshield. The moon. It looked huge. Not just bigger than usual, but massive, like someone had zoomed in on it with a camera. I pulled over for a second, leaning forward to get a better look through the glass. My first thought was that it was some kind of trick of the atmosphere, like how the moon sometimes looks bigger when it's near the horizon. But this was different. This was the moon hanging high in the sky, and it looked close enough to touch. I shook my head, told myself I was tired, and drove the rest of the way home. When I got to our apartment, I tried to be quiet. Emma had to be up early for work, and I didn't want to wake her. I stripped down to my boxers and slipped under the covers, but sleep wouldn't come. Our bedroom window faces east, and the moonlight was streaming through the curtains like a spotlight. The light felt wrong somehow, too bright, too present, like it was pressing against the glass, trying to get in. I got up and yanked the curtains shut, then climbed back into bed. Even with my eyes closed, I could still sense that light, feel it on my skin. It took me another hour before exhaustion finally pulled me under. When I woke up around noon, Emma was sitting on the edge of the bed, frantically scrolling through her phone. "David," she said without looking up, "have you seen this?" I rubbed my eyes. "Seen what?" She turned the phone toward me. Her social media feed was exploding with posts about the moon. Hundreds of them, thousands maybe. People from all over the world sharing photos and videos. In every single one, the moon looked enormous. "Everyone saw it last night," Emma said. Her voice had this edge to it, like she was trying not to panic. "People in Australia, Japan, everywhere. And some people are saying they can still see it." "Still see it? It's the middle of the day." "I know." She stood up and walked to the window, pulling the curtain back. "Look." I got out of bed and joined her. There, visible even in the bright afternoon sky, was the moon. Pale but distinct, bigger than it had any right to be. "That's not normal," I said. Emma laughed, but there was no humor in it. No kidding. We spent the next few hours glued to the news. Scientists were being interviewed, and they all had the same confused look on their faces. They used words like unprecedented and impossible, and no clear explanation. Some tried to rationalize it, talking about orbital shifts or gravitational anomalies, but you could tell they didn't believe their own explanations. Emma wanted to leave. Her sister lived 3 hours north, and she thought maybe we should go stay with her for a while, just until things made sense again. I convinced her to wait a day. Where would we even go? If the moon looked like this everywhere, running wouldn't help. That evening, as the sun set and the moon rose into full view, I heard it for the first time. A low hum. It sounded like a distant engine or maybe an electrical transformer, that deep mechanical thrumming that you feel in your chest as much as hear with your ears. I was in the kitchen making dinner when it started, and I stopped mid-motion, knife in hand, listening. "Emma," I called out, "do you hear that?" She came out of the bedroom. "Yeah, what is it?" "I don't know." We went outside, joining several of our neighbors who were already standing in their yards, looking up. The moon dominated the sky now, easily 3 times its normal size, maybe more. And the hum was definitely coming from above. It wasn't loud yet, but it was constant, unrelenting. A woman down the street, Mrs. Patterson, was crying. Her husband had his arm around her, but he looked just as terrified. My phone buzzed, a text from my co-worker Travis. "You hearing this?" I typed back, "Yeah." The hum wasn't painful, not yet, but it was deeply, fundamentally wrong. It made my teeth ache and my stomach turn. It felt like the sound was coming from inside my head as much as from outside. Emma grabbed my hand. "Let's go inside." We did, but it didn't help. We could still hear it through the walls, through the floors, through everything. That night, neither of us slept. By morning, the hum had worked its way into my dreams. I woke up feeling like I hadn't rested at all, my head pounding with a headache that pulsed in time with that awful sound. The moon was still visible in the daylight sky. If anything, it looked even bigger. The news showed chaos. Airports were shutting down, highways clogged with people trying to flee cities. But where were they going? There was nowhere on Earth where the moon wouldn't be overhead. Some people were driving north, others south, as if direction mattered. I watched footage of a massive pileup on a freeway in California. Nobody was trying to help the injured. They were just abandoning their cars and walking. Emma's sister called, practically begging us to come stay with her. She was convinced that being inland, away from the coast, would be safer. I agreed to try, mostly because Emma looked so desperate, so scared. We loaded a bag into the car and headed for the highway. Within 20 minutes, we were stuck in traffic that hadn't moved an inch. Cars stretched out ahead of us as far as I could see, and I could hear people honking, shouting. After 3 hours of sitting there, I turned us around and headed back home. We tried to stop at the grocery store on the way. The parking lot was full of abandoned shopping carts. Inside, the shelves were stripped bare. A few people were still wandering the aisles, grabbing at whatever was left. I saw 2 men fighting over a box of crackers. Security was nowhere to be seen. We left empty-handed. On our street, people were arguing. Someone's window had been smashed. I didn't ask who or why. I just wanted to get inside, lock the door, and pretend the world wasn't falling apart. But the hum wouldn't let me pretend. It was louder now, a constant vibration in my chest, behind my eyes. I could feel it in my bones. That evening, Emma stood at our bedroom window. staring up at the moon. I asked her what she was doing, but she didn't respond. I walked up behind her and put my hand on her shoulder. "Emma." She finally turned to look at me, and her eyes were glassy, distant. "It's beautiful, isn't it?" she said. "What?" "The moon. It's so beautiful." Her voice sounded wrong, dreamy and disconnected. I pulled her away from the window, my heart racing. "You need to stop looking at it," I said. She just smiled at me and went back to staring. That night, the hum intensified. It wasn't just a sound anymore. It was a vibration, a pressure. I could feel it pushing against the inside of my skull, trying to dig deeper. Our neighbor started screaming around midnight, a horrible, raw sound that went on for 20 minutes before it stopped abruptly. I thought about going to check on him, but I couldn't make myself move. Some part of me knew what I'd find, and I didn't want to see it. By the third morning, the power was out. The grid had failed, though I didn't know why. Cell service was spotty at best. I tried calling Emma's sister, but the call wouldn't go through. Emma barely acknowledged me. She spent all day at the window, her face tilted upward, her expression serene. I tried to close the curtains, to block out the view, but she fought me, actually fought me, scratching at my arms and screaming. Emma had never been violent, never raised her voice at me in the 2 years we'd been together. I let her have the window. I retreated to the basement, thinking maybe it would be quieter down there. It was, slightly. The hum was more muted, easier to ignore, but I could still feel it, that constant pressure building behind my eyes. I needed supplies. We'd eaten the last of our food that morning. I left Emma upstairs and ventured out into Cedar Falls. The fast food restaurant where I worked was a burned-out husk. The windows were shattered, the interior charred black. I stood in the parking lot, staring at it, trying to process what I was seeing. Someone had set it on fire. Why? What was the point? Bodies lay in the street. Some looked like suicides. Others had clearly been murdered. I tried not to look too closely. In the town square, a group of people stood in a tight cluster, all facing the same direction, swaying slightly. They were humming, actually humming, matching the frequency of the sound coming from above. Their eyes were open, but they didn't seem to see anything. I ran home. The next morning, Emma was gone. I searched the apartment, calling her name, my voice cracking with panic. I found her in the backyard, standing perfectly still, her face tilted up toward the sky. "Emma," I said, walking toward her. "Emma, please." She didn't respond. Her eyes were open, but she didn't blink, not even when I waved my hand in front of her face. Tears streamed down her cheeks, but she was smiling. I reached out to touch her, to pull her back inside, but the moment my hand made contact with her arm, she screamed. It wasn't a human sound. It was high-pitched and animalistic, full of rage and pain. I backed away, horrified. She stopped screaming and went back to staring upward as if nothing had happened. The moon was so large now, it looked like it could swallow the entire sky. I could see details on its surface I'd never seen before, craters and ridges and valleys. And something else. Movement. The surface looked like it was shifting, rippling, alive. The hum had layers now, multiple tones creating a horrible harmony that made my head feel like it was splitting open. My nose started bleeding. I stumbled back inside, stuffing toilet paper into my ears. But it didn't help. The sound wasn't coming through my ears anymore. It was inside me. I couldn't stay in that house. I couldn't watch Emma stand out there like a statue, tears running down her face, that awful smile frozen in place. I ventured out again, desperate to find other people who were still themselves, still sane. I found them in the library, barricaded in the basement. 5 people, an elderly couple, a young mother clutching a toddler, and a teenage boy. They'd covered the small windows with books, trying to block out the light. "Is it just you?" the mother, Lisa, asked when I came down the stairs. "Yeah, my girlfriend. She's—" I couldn't finish the sentence. Lisa nodded. "My husband too. He left yesterday morning, just walked out the door." The elderly man, Walter, sat in the corner with his hands over his ears. His wife had gone outside an hour ago, he told me. She'd said she needed to see it, needed to understand. She hadn't come back. The teenage boy, Connor, rocked back and forth in his chair, whispering numbers under his breath. "What are you counting?" I asked him. He looked up at me with bloodshot eyes. "The seconds until it's close enough to touch us." We spent the night in that basement. None of us really slept. The child whimpered occasionally, but mostly she was quiet, staring at the book-covered window like she could see through it. By morning, the child had stopped crying altogether. She sat in her mother's lap, completely still, staring at those books with the same expression I'd seen on Emma's face. "No," Lisa whispered, clutching her daughter tighter. "No, no, no." But the girl didn't respond. She didn't blink. She just stared. Walter stood up suddenly. "I'm going to find my wife." "Don't," I said. "Please, don't go out there." He looked at me with sad, tired eyes. "She's my wife." Before any of us could stop him, he was up the stairs. We heard the library door open and close. Connor stood up next. "Where are you going?" I asked, already knowing the answer. "Don't you want to see?" he said. His voice was dreamy, distant. "Don't you want to understand?" I grabbed his arm, but he was surprisingly strong. He pulled free and walked toward the stairs. "Connor, wait!" He didn't wait. He disappeared up the steps, and I heard the door open and close again. Now it was just me, Lisa, and the unresponsive child. Lisa looked at me, tears streaming down her face. "I can feel it in my head. Can you feel it?" I realized I could. A pressure, a presence, like something was trying to push its way inside my skull, trying to make room for itself in my thoughts. "Yeah," I whispered. "I feel it." I left the library that afternoon. I couldn't watch Lisa hold her daughter. Couldn't watch that little girl stare at nothing with those empty eyes. Lisa didn't try to stop me. As I climbed the stairs, she called out, "Tell me it will be quick." I couldn't answer her. I didn't know. Outside, the world had transformed into something from a nightmare. The moon filled almost the entire sky now, impossibly close. Its light was blinding, casting everything in stark white and black shadows. People were everywhere, thousands of them, all standing still, all facing upward. Some were humming that same awful frequency. Others just stood in silence. I saw Emma in the crowd. I recognized her jacket, that blue windbreaker I'd bought her for her birthday. I pushed through the masses toward her, calling her name. "Emma! Emma!" She didn't respond. When I reached her, I touched her shoulder. She turned slowly, and my blood ran cold. Her eyes were completely white. No iris, no pupil, just white. She smiled at me, and it wasn't her smile. It was too wide, too knowing. "It's almost here," she said, but her voice was all wrong. It sounded like my grandmother, like my childhood best friend, like every voice I'd ever loved layered on top of each other. "We're almost ready." I stumbled backward, bile rising in my throat. And then the hum stopped. The silence was worse than the sound. For a moment, nothing happened. The world held its breath. Then the moon spoke. Not in words, not in any language I could understand, but I knew what it was saying. I understood it completely, down to my bones, in a way that transcended language. The moon had always been alive. It had been waiting, watching, dormant for millions of years. Something had woken it up. I didn't know what. Maybe we did it somehow. Maybe it was just time. But now it was awake, and it was hungry. The sound had been it calling to us, preparing us, making us ready. And now it was ready too. Everyone standing in the streets began to rise, not walking, not jumping, just lifting off the ground like balloons released into the sky. Emma rose past me, still smiling that horrible smile. Her white eyes locked onto mine as she floated upward. I felt the pull then, felt my feet leave the earth. I wanted to fight it, wanted to scream and claw at the ground. But what was the point? Everyone I'd ever known was going up. The whole world was being drawn toward that massive, hungry presence overhead. As I rose higher and higher, as the ground fell away beneath me, my last thought was a question. How long has it been waiting? I woke up on concrete. For a moment, I couldn't remember where I was or what had happened. Then it all came rushing back, and I sat up with a gasp. I was lying in the middle of Main Street in Cedar Falls. The sun was setting, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink. And the moon was back to normal. Just a regular moon, the right size, hanging peacefully in the sky. No sound. The silence was absolute. I got to my feet, my legs shaking. "Emma," I called out. "Emma!" Nothing. I walked through the town. Every house was empty. Every street was deserted. I checked the library, the fast food restaurant ruins, the town square. Nobody. Not a single person. I found my car and drove to the next town over. Empty. The one after that. Empty. Everyone was gone. I don't know if it's just Cedar Falls, just my state, or if I am the only person left on Earth. My phone doesn't work. No radio, no television, no internet. I'm alone in a world that's been hollowed out. I've been staying in my apartment because there's nowhere else to go. Every night, I check the moon. I make sure it stays the right size. I make sure it stays quiet. Weeks have passed, maybe months. I've lost count. Last night, I thought I saw it pulse. Just once, barely perceptible. A slight expansion and contraction, like a heartbeat. And for just a second, I thought I heard it. That low, familiar hum, starting again. The moon is normal tonight, for now, but I keep watching, waiting, because I know the truth now. It will wake up again, and next time, I'll be ready to go with the others. Can you hear it too?